Editing in progress.
All right.
You don't have the video on. You just popped up in the room.
Okay, I see Bill and Josh.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey,
There he
Steve.
is.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, hey,
Sorry, you guys
hey.
are all buzzing in so quick I couldn't see. Oh, there's Jamie.
Happy Monday, everyone.
Yeah, if you say so. Can you guys see the flag?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I think we got,
Hi, yeah.
hi again.
Hello.
Jamie, Bill. Tammy, you're there too, aren't you? I thought I saw you come in.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I swear every Zoom meeting is a little bit different on how the boxes pop up. So just likes to be challenging.
You know, it's not the only change. I just noticed as I said hi, and that my profile picture went away. I have no idea why.
Oh, are you the 2364 phone number?
No.
Huh.
No, but I'm when I talk, it's not coming up with a profile picture. It just comes up with my name.
Oh,
And I used to
right
have
there.
the profile picture there. Yeah, I don't know why it went away. I didn't remember that.
2364. Okay, I'll just mute that one. And that wasn't you, Bill, right? No. Okay.
No.
Okay, so I think we're all here, correct? Yes. Okay. All right, let me get myself situated here. All right, so let's call this regular meeting to order. Today's October 25th at 7:04. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Okay, you start when you're ready. I pledge allegiance
To
to the flag of the United
United
States
States of
United
America.
and
And
to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
Liberty, justice for all.
Let me just get the agenda up. Okay, can you see the agenda now? Okay, JD, I'm going to mute you. Okay, so with that, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Cummings,
Here.
Ms. McGuire,
here,
Mr. Spencer,
Here.
Mr. Palmer,
here,
Mr. Sutton here, Mr. Wusterbarth,
Present.
Ms. Richards,
Here. Okay. And then do we have any agenda additions this evening? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to public comments. We have two public comment sections. First public comment is at the beginning. Both of them, you have 4 minutes to speak. The first one is only for an item that is on the agenda. So again, if it's an agenda item, now would be the time to talk. If not, then there is a second public comment at the end of the meeting. So is there anybody public-wise that wishes to speak to something that is on the agenda this evening?
Hi.
Hello?
Can you see us?
Yes. Mhm.
Good. We've got this ginormous screen looking at us. We are the lab that is asking to purchase the equipment that is in the medical building, and I don't in the awning building, and I'm not sure if this is where you want us to talk about that or if you'd like us to wait. We're not.
Well, it is actually on the agenda this evening. I
Okay.
will give you, that being said, I will give you a heads up that we are going to be tabling that discussion because we have not talked to the individual that is purchasing, that we're in the process of negotiating with on purchasing the building as a
Okay.
whole. So,
Okay. So you're
so
taking it off the agenda.
we will be postponing it until the next meeting. So just letting you know that.
And this is Marshall.
Yep.
I talked to Todd about that a month ago, and he said, he goes, I've given the guy like 6 opportunities to get back with me, and he has not gotten back with me. And he said, I think we just should move forward and do
Well,
what we
that's fine that you can move forward with your request, Marshall, but I feel that we're in negotiations for selling a building at approximately $800,000. I want something in writing from the individual that he doesn't have a problem with us disrupting that entire room. So
Okay.
I just feel it's in the best interest of our negotiation to get that in writing from that
Okay.
buyer. So
Now, let me ask you a question on that, man. Is there any resistance?
Actually, Marshall, now is not really the time and place to discuss. Again, we're going to be tabling this agenda item. I answered your question, and I really don't want to go into further discussion in regard to an item that we're going to be tabling until the next meeting. So,
Great. Well, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
all right, thank you. I just didn't want you to sit through the whole meeting knowing that we're going to be tabling it, okay?
Okay, well, we do appreciate it. Thank you
And
very
we'll get
much.
back to you. Thank you.
Let me get this on.
Okay, is there somebody else for public comment right now? I am muting those unless you have a hand raised, so we don't have background noise. Is there somebody else that wishes to speak in regard to an agenda item this evening for the first public comment?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, okay. The communication's good. Brian Haley, Oscoda. Under the hybrid meetings, is that going to be discussed tonight, Ms. Richards?
yes, it is.
Okay, so that's the MIC TV, which I was looking at in the board packet, right?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, I know they would do a great job. I'm not here to be negative at all. They'll put out a slick program and all that, but one of the few times I really am looking at price, and this is nothing against that. Because what they're looking to do is, geez, almost like a Hollywood type scene, and I don't think you guys need that at this point. During the virus and everything, there's going to be so many changes coming forward. And I hate to see us get locked into something like that. I would offer an alternative that you guys have basically divorced yourself from. I don't know if that's the proper word, but you get the point. It seems to me you can put all of this out on any Facebook page you wish. And boy, the people would really be involved with the board meetings. I think it's high time we do that. You can do it for free. I want you guys to be confident moving forward. You got to be confident with the town. Communication is very important to me. I'm highly trained in it, not at this level, at a different level. And we have all the tools now that, heck, guys like me in the 70s had envisioned, but now it's here. But it's up to the board for you guys to use it. It's there for free. The programs are there for free. I've reached out to a few trustees, and I would hope that we don't sign this contract tonight You guys are going to discuss it. A lot of times you guys discuss things. Next thing I know, it's action. And so this is, with so many changes coming forward, no one can predict what's going to happen with this stinking virus and all the other changes. I know you want to get the word out, and I'll hear about that later. But you can get the word out for your meetings. You can push them out through Facebook for free. And no aspersions against MIC TV. They would produce something of high quality. But really, all we really need to be with each other, guys, is just honest. That's it. Okay, thanks, Sam.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Anybody else on an agenda item? Okay, last call for public, the first public comment. Going once, going twice. Okay, going on then to consent agenda. For consent agenda this evening, we have first on the regular meeting minutes from October 11th. Those were corrected a couple times and posted on the website and emailed out to everybody. Somebody have any questions or comments on those? Okay, hearing none. We have some prepaid of bills. The first one is October 19th run for $95,336.31. Is there any questions on those? Okay, hearing none. We have a check run on for October 26th in the amount of $23,977.28. Is there any questions or comments on those?
Yeah, and I had a question on the and let's see, maybe it was in the previous thing. I may have gotten mixed up here. It has to do with the Visa payments. And Ms. McGuire's been good enough to send out, I had asked several months ago if she wouldn't mind sending out copies of the Visa statements so we could actually see what it was that we're approving to pay for in these Visa bills. And I noticed in the last Visa payment on the DPW, the total on that is $544 and some cents and change. But that includes a $40 late fee and $5 and some change in interest. And I'm just wondering, why do we have a late fee on paying a Visa bill? I don't understand that.
Well, the reason we had that bill is just in the changeover. I changed how we were doing the Visa bills before we were letting the departments enter them. And then if they weren't in, it was basically Jane had to like shotgun run to try to get with everybody. And if somebody didn't have that receipt, so now all Visa receipts are turned in to the office, whether in the basket or via email, so I can print it out. And now when we receive the invoices, we put the entire Visa invoice in with those documents so that it's all in one package. So when we receive those, I've already got the invoices, instead of where before we had to hunt them down and pretty much beg because we have different departments using those cards. But there was an offset just collecting those and changing it over that led to late fees and interest on a couple of our card accounts as I was trying to collect all that stuff.
Okay, so with having this change in place, we shouldn't see any more late fees on any of our Visa bills.
Correct.
Right.
Now you'll be seeing them in one check run like we did with this one, so they can all be in there. And then I put those in, Jamie goes ahead and sends those over to you, and then everything is just right there. And before it was just a little chaotic to try to track it down, get a hold of Al, ask him about any receipts, and if somebody else had used the card, those various things. So now it's just policy to turn those in when you use the credit card. And that way I have them available the day we receive those in the mail, so me and Jamie can get those on the check run and paid.
All right, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions on the October 26th run? All right, then we also have bond payments. Any comments or questions on those? All right, with that, is there a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll
Move
move
to-
that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Sutton to approve the consent agenda.
I think that was Mr. Cummings.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. Sounded like you, Josh.
Voices are all cutting out the same this time of year.
Yeah, I guess. Sorry. Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to subcommittee reports and project updates. I believe I saw Todd on, but we have the Economic Improvement Director update.
I am here.
Hi, Todd.
How's everybody doing this evening?
Good, and you?
Very well.
I'm good, thank you. So I got just 4 quick subjects for you. Your RRC update. There's been some back and forth with myself and Pablo about just miscellaneous documents, things he wants refined. So we're down to about 3 really important items. The online payment system is one of those. Unfortunately, the demo that we had scheduled for 1:30 today had to be postponed because of a technical issue on their end. The account manager lost her internet, so kind of hard to have that demo without her and without that presence. So hoping we were going to be making some decisions on that, but I'll see you in 2 weeks for that one. There's a training document that we'll need to submit. I've got it about 95% done. I got to put it in front of the draft document in front of the EIC, get their opinion, then I'll bring in that to the board at the next meeting for your blessing, and that should check that box. And then just working on another item for local incentives and just kind of buttoning that up. So those are kind of the 3 things that I'm now trying to finalize to get us over that finish line. Any questions about RRC before I move on?
can you elaborate a little bit on the training thing that you're going to be taking to the EIC?
It's just it's a training document that kind of is the overarching training strategy, training commitment for all of the boards. So the Planning Commission, ZBA, EIC, and the Oscoda Township Board itself. And it just breaks it down by, here's the training hours that this commission is committed to. Currently, the ZBA and the Planning Commission have a criteria of 6 hours a year annually for training. Pablo proposed a commitment that I think the EIC should be between 2 and 4, and that the Oscoda Township Board should also have a commitment of continuous training in the matters of economic improvement. And then we go through and list what some of the subjects might be, and then where the training could be obtained. So the MTA or the MEDC or other groups, CDAM offers different levels of training. So it kind of breaks it out by commission and then by matrix of subject matter and where you could get it. So we'll kind of go through and have a conversation with the EIC about, hey, do you want to be at 2 hours? Do you want to raise the level to 4? Our Planning Commission and ZBA are already higher at 6 hours per year than what the MEDC was proposing at 4 hours. So we'll take our higher commitment and use that. And then I'll bring it to you, the board, to see what kind of commitment you're comfortable making. You guys comfortable with 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, or
I believe
nothing?
we're required 6 hours right now, just like our
I
other
didn't
ones.
I didn't see it in the protocol. I went through the protocol document, that protocol manual, and I didn't see it there. So maybe, if you guys think that you're already doing 6 hours or obligated, then we just need to document it in this training document, but then also in the protocol manual.
Thank you, Todd.
You bet. Okay, real estate updates for you. Lake Street redevelopment, of course, we have a purchase agreement in place. I spoke with the developer last week, and they are hoping that they will be on the November 1st Planning Commission meeting to submit their site plan for review and their hopeful acceptance. So that's, moving along, and all we can do is respond to what they put in front of us at this point. Skeel Avenue, again, we have a purchase agreement executed with that developer, and they are also in the midst of their due diligence items that they have. And if you'll recall, they have 6 months to do market studies, environmental studies, whatever they think they want to do to prove out that this is in fact a property that they want to close on. So I know they're moving forward with their contingency items. In the Awney Medical Building, I think we're down to probably one item in the purchase agreement that we're discussing between the attorneys. And I hope that sometime this week, the subcommittee will have a chance to take another look at their suggestions, and that we can bring a purchase agreement for the board to consider at your next meeting. Questions about real estate? Okay. At your last meeting, you voted to
Oh, wait, I'm
have.
sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, Todd. I did have one
Sure.
thought.
Yep.
Just, is Friedman, like, let's say we can't hammer out, I'm hopeful that we're hammering out with Ani, but if we can't, would Friedman be ready to lock and load for the auction?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank
Yep.
you. Sorry, I
Okay.
interrupted.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I never know how long I'm supposed to wait or if I can just move along. So
Yeah.
Social district, last meeting, you authorized me to get our matters in order to make the official submittal to the state agency. And there's just a couple of little items that I need to button up before we're ready to do that. Those are in process, and I think we'll be submitting that in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So that's moving along nicely. And then I guess just a quick general EIC update. In the last few weeks, we've put together some subcommittees, branches down below the main EIC. And really the reason I did that was to get the ability to have more people involved than just the 5 official committee members. So we have established, and we're working on an archway committee, or an archway project. And if you're wondering why we're doing these things, this all comes back from the place leap strategies and the strategic plan that was adopted back in 2019 by the board. So anything that we're talking about here is, all a matter of those strategies and the items you hired me to do. So the archway is one of those. We've got a couple of conceptual drawings done, and as soon as I can get with 1 or 2 vendors on these to come up with just some preliminary budgets, I plan to bring those to this board to see if it's a project you think we should move forward with, or if it's something that you feel more comfortable, isn't a priority and it should wait. But I don't know that decision can be made until we have at least some soft costs and some conceptual budgets wrapped around it, because the first question you're going to ask is, hey, great arch, how much is it going to cost? So know that is in the works, and I would think here in a few weeks or within the next 1 to 2 meetings, maybe we at least can have a conversation about that this meeting. Second one is the Arts and Placemaking Subcommittee. You'll remember that we did have this committee going on in 2021, and we've reassembled for 2022. We've met a couple of times so far, and just trying to finalize what we think our 2022 strategy and short-term plus long-term goals ought to be, do some budgeting. Of course, in the budget work sessions that we've had, or that I've been on so far, we've talked about the monies, in the funds for this project. And we'll also be coming up with strategies to help leverage that to get some grant money. So we're actively engaged in that. And then we've also assembled the Downtown Redevelopment Committee, and that kickoff meeting for that subgroup is scheduled for November 3rd. So that ends my update and my report to you. Do you have any questions?
None for me.
I don't have
Thanks,
any,
Todd.
thank you.
All right. You guys have a great
Thanks,
night.
Todd.
Thanks.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay, thanks, Todd. So with that, then we'll move on to the utility committee update.
Thanks, Ann. That would be me. We met a couple weeks ago, and we had a project to close 2 dead ends over on Bachman, which is for everybody behind the bowling alley. Got an update from the contractor, or from the builder who's doing that project. They'll be finished tomorrow, and I believe that they'll have water. A couple things. The township, through the committee, we agreed to split the professional engineering services. So our share would be about $2,500 for that project, which enabled us to get a permit through Eagle. Eagle required the contractor to go with a ductile pipe instead of a plastic pipe, which created quite a burden of about $13,000 hit to complete this project. And I'm just mentioning this because future, when we have some water projects, we're going to have to be careful with Eagle. And this, we didn't fight it this time because the contractor is paying for 80% of it, basically. But there's contamination there from an old dry cleaner. But the contamination, they quit the monitoring wells, I think in 2017, because the contamination was deemed to be 25 to 30 feet below the surface. And Eagle put this stipulation that we couldn't go with a high density plastic pipe, which for the entire run would have cost $3,900. Instead, Eagle required the cast pipe with special gaskets so there'd be no seepage of contamination. But the pipe's only going to be 6.5 feet in the ground. To me, it's just a requirement that, for the next project, if it's a municipality, we've got to be very careful because we could get into a situation where it's going to cost a lot more than what we're going to plan on or what we should pay for. And the contamination's 20 feet below, 25 to 25 feet below where these pipes are, and it just does not make any sense. With that, our total investment in the project is going to be about $7,000, which will eventually come out of the water fund. We'll have 4 houses that one is being closed north of $500,000, so it's going to create a good tax base there. But the best thing for all the residents in that area is going to clean up their water supply. So I appreciate the committee's help and F&V and everybody involved to get that done. Secondly, I have F&V listed later in other, and I'd like to we had another discussion about that in the utility committee, but I'd like to save that for other as we go to the next project. That's the utility update.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, now on to you, Rick, for the row engineering progress report.
Good evening, everybody. The the water main projects that are underway this year with Caterman. The main line work is essentially done. They are out there securing the water service connections. The latest number I had was, I think we had 6 that were going to be connected out on Oscoda Beach and Green out of a potential 8, I believe, out there. And then the last number that I had off from River Road by the school, we were up to 19 connections being made of a potential 28, I believe, in that area. And our inspector out there, Steve Ludwig, he is still working at hooking up with the residents and getting things scheduled. Part of that scheduling is contractor's plumber will come down to Township Hall and have a specific date for the connections to be made. And with that, the water department will get that scheduled. And on those particular days where the connections are being made, F&B will be on site in getting the well disconnect paperwork filled out. The residents will have two options. One, the wells will obviously be disconnected from the residences, and two options on what to do with that. That will either be left operational for hookup to irrigation systems outside of the homes, or the well will have to be capped per Oscoda County Public Health guidelines. So that's what we're looking at for probably over the next month or so. Contractor is out restoring property. He's working on the roadways. Obviously right now the weather's not helping all that much, but he will have everything fairly well buttoned up here shortly. One delay that we're working with is the meter pit for out by on River Road, the meter pit between the connection of the main in the subdivision with the Oscoda Township main, which is on the south side of River Road in front of the school, is causing a delay. We're looking at probably 4 to 6 weeks before that is available, and that will be able to allow us to finish the project. We are working with both Oscoda, F&V, and Oscoda on some means and methods to still get the residents hooked up and connected. Since they'll be individually metered, we can still work between the townships on the joint water supply and water payment between the townships. So we're working on that. Sewer system, we do now have an executed contract with RCL Construction. They were a little bit reluctant in executing the contract until a revised project schedule was approved, but we've got that now, and therefore he was going to be passing that on to his subs. We will hopefully get a little bit better schedule from them, and then we'll have a better handle on what the overall schedule looks like for 2022. We're anticipating due to material shortages, probably looking to an extension from May of next year or next spring to maybe September or October, but we'll know more about that a little later on. We'll keep you apprised at that at future meetings. The trail project is basically moving along. At one of the recent trail committee meetings, it was made aware, or we were made aware from Consumers Energy and United States Forest Service that some of their agreements with FERC won't be reviewed and approved until probably late January, early February. And MDOT will not proceed with advertising or bidding until that process is done. In general, it doesn't change really significantly our schedule. We will still be well under construction in 2022. The only concern that I brought it up at the meeting, is that delay is putting us later in the bidding schedule for 2022. And that might affect our bid prices, but we're keeping an eye on that. So they were all made aware of the information. They had the information in plenty of time, but their internal bureaucracy doesn't move any faster than they have to. So therefore, that's kind of forced us into this situation.
You're kind of breaking up there. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, sorry. Like I said, the schedule there is unfortunately we have to deal with those federal and state agencies, and they had the information in plenty of time, but at their pace, they work at their pace, which is not necessarily equal to the pace that the industry works at. So we will continue to keep you up to speed on that. Again, the all intents is that construction will be underway on the trail as soon as the weather breaks in the spring, in next spring, 2022. That is about it. Mr. brought up, yes, Bachman Drive, Maine, heard from our inspector at the later today that water is actually was being put into the main for pressure testing and back testing. So as he said, that thing is ready to start hooking up services as soon as those tests come back acceptable, which we don't anticipate any issue there. So with that, I don't have anything else. Any questions from anybody?
Rick, just appreciate the help there with Bachman Drive.
Yep. And totally understand your concern over the contamination. Part of that too is they probably have some issues with the soil in the area, not necessarily the groundwater. So, but we will be working with Amanda Armbruster and the permitting agency there for any future projects to try to get some of that cleared up. So.
Right. Well, and I think, yeah, thanks, Rick. And I know I had asked the question when that was found out, does the state provide any funding to help those increased costs? To me, if they're gonna put mandates that we have to use different product, then, all because of their cleanup efforts. I mean, I'm all for protecting everybody, but it shouldn't be at our cost. There should be they have all kinds of funds for, cleaning up gas, old gas tanks and so on. They should have something here if they're gonna mandate that we, increase our out of pocket. This one didn't happen to hit us, but it hit another tech. It did hit us. Anyway, you look at it, it hit us. So.
No, good point. And we are exploring that with them to see if there's any avenue for funding, cleanup funding of that type of stuff in the future. So we'll let you know as we find out.
Thank you. Any other questions for Rick before we move on? Okay. Then moving on to the agenda. What did I do with my agenda? All right, moving on to the superintendent's report. First on, we have the all paid online payment systems. As Todd indicated, we are going to be postponing this discussion based on the fact that there was a delay in the presentation to the board. So. Then moving on to the next is hybrid meetings.
Do we need a motion to postpone that item?
I always forget we need that. I'm sorry. And you always remind me, Jeremy. So thank you.
I move that we postpone the all paid online payment systems until our next regularly scheduled communication.
Support.
Okay, and I believe that motion was made by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Cummings.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried. Next on to the hybrid meetings. Tammy?
Okay, as discussed briefly at the previous township board meeting, the subcommittee has researched hybrid meetings and what the cost would be to pursue it. This topic requires board discussion.
Well, everybody's got the stuff in their packet. Ms. Richards was unable to attend last time. I'm sure she's got questions.
Right. Well, a
So-
couple things. I was unable to attend the last meeting, and I don't know how much you guys have discussed or didn't discuss. And then as a committee member, I was not able to attend the meeting that you had with everybody due to
Yeah, you had something else scheduled, I think. You were too many places to be and not enough time to be at them all.
yeah, that might be part of it. I think it was actually when Matt passed. And I didn't, yeah, and I didn't know about the meeting. That being said, we went over it, our subcommittee went over it and talked about some of the stuff. So I'm, kind of familiar. And I think I voiced my opinion when we were talking about things that I just kind of wanted to simplify our whole production and try to keep our costs down as much as possible. And then in looking at this presentation, I guess I noticed too that if we actually move to shoreline players, we're going to have to do additional snow removal for meetings there to keep driveways clean. And I don't know.
Yeah, they did want to add that. They were asking for, I think, what is it, like 15 feet of sidewalk from where we maintain for the library up to the door.
Yeah, which I understand why they would want that. But I just, again, I kind of go back to just keeping it all at the library and, keeping it as, as basic as possible. And I know
Well,
Josh recently attended a county meeting, I think you said, Josh, where they had a hybrid. Oops, sorry, I just realized somebody was in the waiting room. I gotta let him in, sorry.
See, if MIC TV was running the meeting, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Well, normally it dings. Yeah, but anyways, so sorry, Rosemary. I didn't mean to leave you in the waiting room. It didn't ding like it normally does. But Josh, can you explain what you saw at the county meeting, I guess, for hybrid?
Yeah, they were, I was able to get down there this past Wednesday and I was able to, they're just using 2 big screen TVs, 2 cameras, and then they had the layout, the 1 camera zoomed the whole room. So it picked everybody up, and then they used 1 TV for the audio for Zoom that came up. And then the speakers, while the board could see the person on the one screen, the speakers actually played over by where everybody was sitting with the board. So you could hear that. And they had, I followed up because Nancy Hubel, their clerk, was running that all from a podium. She basically had control of the meeting and everything from that one spot.
Cool.
So just something I know I know we were looking at, we had camera issues that we were paying for and replacing. So I mean, if they're running it with just 2 flat screens, some mics, and I believe just that 1 camera views everybody, and then anybody else speaking on Zoom or anything, they pop up like our display does on here.
So so you're saying that you want to just toss a couple cameras in there and just kind of throw it all together?
Yep, that sounds.
I was
that's
just saying I was able to finally attend a live hybrid meeting to see what they did. And that's how they ran it. So it was just interesting to see how they
So,
were
I mean,
doing
if they had multiple TVs and stuff, who ran the mics? I mean, who ran the audio mixer so that you could have
They didn't have an
multiple?
audio mixer. They run the mics right up to the podium. And everything goes into Miss Hubel controls it all right there with the laptop.
So
Yes.
is there like one microphone, or is it just like
They
everyone's
have,
got a
they have
microphone
the
that she
board of
turns on and
commissioners.
off?
They have 5 microphones that come to that podium where she's kind of like, they built her out a podium in the corner. I don't know if you've been down there, but everything runs in that. So I'm assuming the wires and everything come up underneath, and they're all into that laptop specific for that meeting.
Well, that sounds like
So
absolute misery.
I can't understand how the mics are working, because I know
I don't
that,
either.
yeah, it's like, so so she's got to turn the mics off and then one on at a time in order to avoid feedback, unless she's got some very sophisticated microphones, which, even with a soundboard and a sound engineer, we have trouble avoiding that sometimes. So did you see her actually preventing people from speaking? Because, did people
No, I
have to
just
raise
got
their
to
hands
see it
in order to
after.
take that?
Yeah, I couldn't watch her during the meeting because she's off in that corner. I just got to see her setup and what they had, and I was just inquiring with them what they were doing and how they were doing it, because they were
Have you
same
seen
thing with us trying to get it out there.
Have you viewed the recording?
Yeah, the recording just basically gives you that shot because the camera covers it's their layout. The cameras move perfectly to the layout of the room. So that between those two, the way you have it, you have your speakers and your cameras cover that one camera cover that whole room.
Well,
So you
I mean,
you can see all the commissioners talking, and then you can also see the podium where anybody else would speak, and then the first line of public sitting there you can see as well.
well, I mean, we can definitely alter the number of cameras. We don't have to have a camera for every board member. It looks better that way, but we don't have to do that. But to try and hodgepodge together a bunch of audio stuff without understanding exactly what she's talking about and without seeing the copy of the of the recording of that meeting. And I understand, there seems to be some pushback on it. Mr. Haley's talking about why not just toss it on Facebook? Well, what happens if we're on Facebook and we have a heated discussion about COVID rules
Well,
and they throw us
but it's
off?
more th-
We can't. We're
it's
not.
even,
Go
it's
ahead.
even more than that, Jeremy. We don't own that platform.
I know. I've got a whole. Yeah. I mean, we don't own that platform,
Yeah.
and we don't have control over it. And even if we
No.
did use Facebook, we still have to have somebody mix the microphones. Otherwise, it's just going to be a jumbled mess. If you can even hear them, if there's not feedback. So the number of cameras can be altered, of course. But to say that MIC TV shouldn't be part of the production, I think is folly.
No, that's not what I was saying. I was just telling you how they ran it.
Right, and that's a
That was the
valid point.
first time
That's
anybody
the,
near
you're,
us
you're
been
talking
doing it.
about the same couple of TVs that they're using. We've got the same kind of setup. The only difference is that we've got people that are running the meeting for us so that we can focus on the board decisions instead of, oh, I need to let somebody into the meeting, or, oh, I need to mute somebody. I mean, Ann shouldn't be messing with that. That's not what she's here to do today. She's here to run the meeting and not to dilly-dally with the technology. So that's what part of it, having MIC TV run that portion of the meeting, as well as running all the mixers and the microphones. And it's nice that they toss in the pretties. We don't have to, that's something that they do. That's something that they want to do. We didn't ask for that. And it's nice to have it, but it's not required. And I don't think that they're billing us any more or less if we have it or not. And there's also the fact that, we're charging a franchise fee so that we can put this meeting on video for the public to be at the meetings in a live meeting in a live venue, be it hybrid or not, or physical, as well as the fact that the people can go back and review those meetings if they'd missed it and they want to go back and watch it for whatever reason. And if we're going to continue to charge the franchise fee, then we need to give them a quality production. And that's what MIC TV is trying to do. And then as far as the theater side is concerned, moving to a different venue gives, and Brian Haley's right, there's going to be all kinds of changes coming. And do we want to lock ourselves into the library and set up a bunch of equipment in there? Or do we want to just go ahead and get a bigger venue, help out the theater, and be ready for these changes?
So there are a couple things that I wanted to touch on that you mentioned, Jeremy, and one of them is that the franchise fee is not stipulated anywhere, either by charter or Spectrum or in any other law, ordinance, whatever, that we have to use that money for this purpose.
That's true.
We have, since we started charging it, we've tried to make it a point of using that money in what I think each of us on the boards have felt is like the right exchange with the community. So we don't spend every dollar of that franchise fee that we make on McTV, but we have used that money to subsidize the productions that McTV has produced and provided us, as well as the management of the government channels on cable. So I mean, I think that's still, in my mind, the use of the franchise fee to subsidize this activity is what I think makes the most sense. And I think it's the most, I don't know, I kind of feel like the word might, in this case, might be ethical. It's just simply because it's in exchange with what the community is paying for their cable TV. We're actually providing them communication back, and we can afford to do it with that franchise fee. So I feel like that's the right place to subsidize it, is my point. As far as the quality goes, I have really enjoyed and appreciated the work that McTV has done over the years to improve their game and produce a better and better product every year. I think that's great. And I love the fact that they keep coming up with new ways to make it better. To the point, I'm not trying to do a Hollywood production, but let's be honest, even with all those cameras, it's not even a Hollywood production. If anyone knows anything about a Hollywood production, I would. Been out there doing it for so many years. So we're not doing a soundstage for sure. But I would say that we're getting very close to something which is, professional. And, maybe a TV per board member is overdoing it. But I get the point. I get what they're trying to suggest. So I'm done. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those words of support, Mr. Cummings.
Sure.
Jamie, I think you were gonna say something. Jamie had a question, or was her and Tim were
Jamie,
about to talk at
Yeah,
the same
that's
time,
fine.
I think.
To kind of piggyback on what Tim Cummings was talking about with the franchise fees, I do remember the past boards talking about it, and we did use that money towards MIC TV, which they have done a great job for us, don't get me wrong. But I thought one of the things that we had always talked about was improving the broadband for the community overall, also with using that money and like saving some of it over time to be able to do some of those bigger projects. Like what comes to mind is the horizontal launch growth that's going to be coming to the area and different things, because the service, around here sucks, let's face it. So I think that we should be saving some of that money to do that. I appreciate what MIC TV has done. I don't think we need more cameras. We don't need individual cameras for sure. I don't think that we should move to a building that's not township owned. I think that renting the money for rent is I'm definitely not for that. And we have had discussions, serious discussions about renovating our building or moving to a new building. So why would we do that when we could come up with something even better that's township owned and township run? I think that we could come up with something and still stay at the library until we do decide what we're going to do with the township hall. And I think that's the only things I had.
Right on. Well, as a rebuttal, what if we make all the plans to stay at the library and January rolls around and the next wave hits and they say, oh, you got to social distance again. And we have a big contentious issue. Now there's not enough room at the library for everybody to come in there. Well, that's going to be an issue. And saving up a bunch of money to put in internet services, that's not the township's responsibility. Our responsibility is not to pay $60,000 ish per mile to install fiber down the US 23 corridor. That's most of those fibers are already in there. And if businesses want to connect to them, then it's up to them to pay to connect to it. Just like we just approved that easement so that they could run the fiber up Arrow Street for Coletta and the businesses down there, whoever wanted it. I don't know if it was Coletta or not. But that's an example of where the business takes care of the internet connectivity that they need. It's not the township's responsibility. So I don't have to disagree with you on that one. I do agree that we don't need a camera for every person. It comes right down to it. We can lower the number of cameras and lower the initial outlay. But I do think that, this $80,000 a year that we're pulling in franchise fees is a benefit to the bottom line of the township. And a portion of it has been traditionally, since it was started, used to pay MIC TV to give us a quality broadcast and a professional broadcast for our board meetings. And I'd like to continue that. Anybody else have any
Bill or
questions?
Steve? I think
And
I haven't heard
Jeremy,
any information.
yeah, Jeremy, could you explain a little bit? One of the things I read in here, excuse me, it was the MIC-TV said something about it would be easier for them to make connections and do the broadcast from the theater than it would be the library. I didn't quite understand that because they've been doing it from the library all along. I wasn't sure what.
Well, what we're talking about doing here is right now there's camera operators. There's these big $7,000 to $10,000 professional cameras, but they aren't autonomous and they don't have controls other than zoom and all the lighting features and focus. So there has to be an operator stand there at that camera, and we have to pay that person. And what we're trying to do here is kind of automate a lot of the process by getting cameras that that are all controlled remotely by one controller. So that's where I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of, you know, what they're talking about with and setting it up at the theater is going to be a little easier because there's you know, there's already a lot of the cabling is run, and a lot of the connections are there, and they have a light booth and a sound booth, and all of those things are already set up. I don't think that it would probably be a little easier to run it at the theater, to set it all up, because, you know, there's also the fact that they've got all the light bars and everything to put those cameras on and affix them so that they're stationary. Whereas at the library, you know, we've got drop ceiling, and there's all kinds of things that we'd have to contend with as far as, you know, running the cable. But I'm sure that, you know, I don't think that they changed it much as far, you know, either way. They said they could do it in either place. It's, you know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I guess, as far as the installation is concerned.
Well, I guess what I was reading here it's in the plan, and you have the overview, number one, then number two, you have the plan.
Mhm.
And the last sentence in that first paragraph of the plan, it said this will, the chosen platform for remote meetings by Oscoda is Zoom. This will be
Mhm.
no issue for hybrid broadcast meetings at Shoreline Theater, but may require extra testing for Robert Parks Library.
That would probably,
I didn't know what.
right. I'm assuming that has to do with some sound and whatnot. Whereas, you know, the MIC TV works closely with the theater. They probably have the sound, all that stuff, you know, all those things figured out. But that would probably be a question that could be answered by Mr. Joseph, who is looks like he's raised his hand because he just wants to speak so badly on this issue.
Well, I know they did mention in here also that, you know, we tried to put a hybrid Zoom meeting together in the beginning of this pandemic at the library, and it was a huge failure. And
he can actually, I would love for you to hear his explanation. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, said the first test of hybrid meetings at Robert Parks Library failed due to the rush into production and inability to position sound equipment in an acoustical appropriate manner. Based on the successful tests at Shoreline Theater, MIC TV is confident in this venue and our ability to operate a smooth hybrid board meeting. So apparently there's something to do with the acoustics and the building itself at Shoreline as opposed to the library.
Well, there have to be acoustic differences. I mean, the library is a library and the theater is a theater. I mean, one was built for silence and one was built for noise. So but is it, Miss Richards, would it be all right if Mr. Joseph
It's appropriate for, yeah, I mean, it's a presentation and he's here to answer the questions. So it's appropriate for Eric to speak.
Okay.
Am I on
you
there?
should be able, you should be able to. Yep.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're
You guys
welcome.
I kept saying, oh, I can answer that, but I don't know how to raise my hand on this thing. But the primary purpose for making it easier is the audio issues. And we ran 4 hybrid meetings at Shoreline Theater with no audio issues, as we had at the earlier one. And that has to do with the position of where the audience members are with the speaker systems, and where the microphones are when you're all sitting at the table. And at the theater, since the speakers are all in front of the stage, where we had and there were more than 7 people there when we did this hybrid meeting. There were double that. There were almost 20 people there, and there were no audio issues, and they could hear everything coming back from people on remotely as well. So that is one of the biggest reasons that we would have to do some extra testing in the library and try to figure out how to position sound equipment so that it doesn't interfere, based on, because hybrid meetings are much different than everybody being remote, because you have your one speaker and your one mic. Well, now we have to mix it all and make sure that that everybody can be heard and that there's no feedback between the speakers and the microphones based on the space. Another thing is the computer system at the theater has multiple more TV outputs that are required because of the hybrid meeting, for us to control it. as well as send videos to a TV for the board to see, and to, I was gonna use the projector there for the agenda and things for audience members to see. So that wouldn't be available, or it'd be hard to do in the smaller space of the library as well.
So you're saying that you can do the hybrid meetings, you can set up the sound in the library. It will be a little bit more difficult,
yeah.
but it can be done.
Yeah, I think in the proposal, it says it can be done at either location.
Get what you're saying about the, I mean, just here in the township offices, I have to close my door. Otherwise I get like the, something from Josh's computer. I get, the mics and stuff all kind of
yeah.
echo. and you
I
get
think that
sound
was,
back or whatever,
I believe
but
that
yeah.
was one of the biggest reasons that the initial tests on that hybrid meeting failed, was because all the board members were signed into Zoom and getting audio from their laptops as well as their microphones, picking up everything from the speakers behind them. And that just turned into a mess. I mean, the video was fine. There's no problems with the
Right.
video, but
And I want to be clear that I do think that you guys do a great job, Eric, and JD's on, I mean, please don't hear that I don't think that. That being said, I would like us, if at all possible, to stay at the library and, still do a quality production, but stay where we are, and that's at the library.
why is that? Why do you want to stay at the library?
Because I like the venue in the sense that we're all in the same, I think I told you this before, well, and say it to everybody, but the stage, I guess I don't like the thought of that the board is going to be sitting up on a stage and then there's going to be an audience with people. I don't like that venue, I guess, for a board meeting. I feel that we did a board meeting at the old conference room that we had, that is now going to be the Alcona Health Center. I mean, but that building was about the same size as the library, and they did it for years and we're fine. I just feel that the library, maybe is a little bit smaller, but not that much smaller. I mean, you guys were there, Eric. I guess you could answer that question more if it was bigger or smaller or the same. I mean, maybe we can work with something, like right now, the library has all those books in there, I mean, for sale. I mean, maybe they could move those out of there. We've never asked them about that. Maybe there's some things that we could do in there that would give us a few more feet of space, instead of having, those are all used books that are for sale. Maybe they don't have to do that. I just,
Well, maybe they could do that, but but that wouldn't make the room that much bigger, and it
Yeah.
still wouldn't really accommodate any more seating capacity.
Right.
And
Well, I feel like
and
if we're gonna have to go to
it's-
the social district thing, or the social district, we're not all drinking. The social distancing thing, that we'll probably have to go back to Zoom meetings anyways.
Anyway.
I guess if it's gonna be the social
Yeah.
distance thing, we're gonna have to,
I mean,
we're
who
gonna have
knows
to go
what's
back to,
yeah,
but
who knows what's coming up,
I don't know.
I mean, none of
Yeah.
us do.
No, I don't want to add one more element of, we have snow removal, snow and ice. That then the DPW is going to have to take care of later in the evening, more than what they do now, into an expanded area. So I just think it's one more layer that we don't need personally, but that's just me. I mean, obviously we all have our own thought process here. I'm not saying mine's right and yours is wrong and vice versa.
Right? No, not at all.
Yeah, but that's where I'm coming from. I just think we can kind of stay where we're at, and I mean, I guess we don't have to go back to just the one camera just sitting there like it did in the good old days, but we can, have some. I mean, I think you guys do a great job. Please don't hear that I don't think that. I just don't think it has to be.
So you want to do you're amenable to the new cameras that are controlled by the one stick, so that we can lower the number of people recording the meetings, but you want to stay at the library.
Yes, I would like to stay at the library.
So feasibly, we could, I could, go ahead.
Yep, Steve, go
When
ahead.
you're finished, I'd like to make a few comments.
Yep.
Personally, I think the library is too crowded. I think we're going to have more attendance as we go down the road. I'd like to keep the library a library. We're not in a new building yet. We're not even talking about a new building yet. We're just, I think Josh is setting up a first meeting to discuss that. As an interim option, I think the theater is a great option to do. And personally, I support Jeremy's plan.
Well, there's multiple facets to it, and I appreciate that, Steve. It sounds to me like we can go ahead and that the discussion on the number of cameras and whatnot, I think there were 7 on the quote, and everybody seems to think that's a few too many. So I would move that we approve the MIC TV contract with 4 cameras, and then the setup to be determined later, whether or not it's in the theater or in the library. We'll discuss that in a minute, I guess.
Wouldn't you need to know that though?
Nope, because the price to set it up is the same either way.
And what is that price? I'm sorry.
It's listed in his proposal. Eric, you got to know it off the top of your head. You're supposed to have this memorized by now.
What's the question about price?
What's the installation fee if we go with 4
Oh,
cameras? I'm scrolling.
They're gonna charge us to install it in their own building?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, you got, I mean, well, yeah, you got to pay these people to hook it up.
Are they
Wait,
gonna be able to
wait,
use
there's-
those cameras for other productions?
Okay, there are, I can respond to that.
Go ahead.
There are 2 options listed in the proposal. One is for the township to buy its own equipment, which then we would charge to install it, and you would own it all, and you would use it for just your stuff. And then there's the other option, which is we would buy it and own it all, and then you wouldn't be charged for the installation.
Okay, so
But the
would that be
price of the
option
meeting goes
1 or
up.
option B? Or I mean, option 1 and option 2?
Yes, that's the difference.
Okay, so option 1 is $25,300. Option 2 is $40,150. And then
that's-
there's like,
That's for the MIC TV production for the regularly scheduled board meetings per year. That doesn't include the camera purchase. So in option 1, there's a capital outlay. And option 2, there's not a capital outlay, but the yearly fee remains higher. Which is why I was trying to say, well, I mean, and another part of it, another reason that I'm thinking, you know, from the board perspective, you know, we should own the equipment, because if God forbid we get pissed off at Eric Joseph or MIC TV or any of those folks, which I don't think is going to happen, but if it happens, or if Eric is unable to perform it for whatever reason, or he can't, or what, you know, whatever happens, we need the next person to be able to step right into that role. And so that's why I think that the township should own that equipment, so that there's none of the, okay, well, I'm going to take my toys and go home.
Well, Jeremy,
And
actually, there's another angle to that, and that is
Do tell.
that the township has historically purchased the equipment. We actually went through a period, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago by now,
Yes.
where we went through and purchased the equipment that was being used for the meetings, but that actually McTV currently at that time owned. So then we bought it from them. And then that way there was no need to wonder or worry that the equipment was coming and going from the
Correct.
what do you call it? The
Sound room.
that little room, the room
The
back
booth.
there where they all sat there. The booth. Thank you very much. Exactly. So I mean, yeah, there is that. But you're suggesting that we would need 4 new cameras here at this point, is what you're motioning here?
Yes, because if we keep the original cameras, they require operators. They require a person that requires payment to stand there. Whereas the pan-tilt zoom cameras are all controlled by one operator, and there's a little joystick that controls them all. So we reduce the amount of labor involved, which is, you know, the price of labor is going up and it's hard to find. So.
Well, right, it's true. Then what of the ones which we've already purchased? I mean, at this point now, if we're going to grow into bigger shoes, as it were, you know, what do we do with the shoes that we were using?
We continue to use them because the township did not purchase the cameras. The township purchased the sound mixer board and other equipment that's in that sound booth, but E-Rock Innovations was still renting the cameras to the township. as part of that fee. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric.
No, that's
Yeah,
correct.
Is that true?
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, good. Thanks for the
So we won't
clarification.
we won't be using those other cameras that have to be run by people at all, so the price will be reduced?
Yes, that's what we're trying to do here is the price of labor is going up. So if we don't purchase those automated cameras so that one person can run it, then the price per meeting that you see that's as the a la carte additional full meeting of $1,110, that price goes up to almost $1,800 to pay all the additional labor that's required and the rental of those other cameras, which is why I'm looking at and why I'm recommending to the board that we should go ahead and purchase the cameras that are controlled by the joystick so that it's easily facilitated. We own the equipment, so there's no question about who can use it and whatnot. Is the board, if the board doesn't say that they can use it, then they can't. It's for board purposes. And then if for some reason MICTV is unable to fulfill the contract or unwilling to, don't know if that's ever going to happen, but then the next people or next person or next entity that picks up those reins is going to have the equipment that they need sitting right there, so that we're going to have less downtime and less of an interruption to our board.
So Jeremy, just one question here.
Sure.
Through the two options, option one where we buy the equipment, 25,300. You had mentioned if we only, because in this quote, it has 7 to 8 PTZ cameras.
Yes.
And you're mentioning if we went to 4. So does that mean the 25.3 would be roughly half?
No, it means that it lowers the capital outlay. So right now that $25,300 is billed for the yearly payment to MICTV to run the meetings, set all the equipment up, tune it, do all that fun stuff, create the production, all those fun things. The capital outlay that is on, let me find that on here, to actually buy the cameras themselves.
Standard number 6, I think, isn't it? Quote for PTZ camera installation required for option 1.
Yes.
8 cameras at $1,000 a piece.
Yep. So that capital outlay of approximately $15,000, that would go down. But the cost to run the meetings is going to, it's going to be there either way. We can do the capital outlay of 15K and lower the meeting cost to, what was it, 25-ish, or we can pay the extra 15,000 in labor fees and continue paying that over the course of however many years, and it's going to continue to go up from there.
So option 2 at 40,150 includes, though, that means that the MyTV or MICTV is buying the cameras and they own them.
And they install them at no additional charge, but they own them.
But they own
not
them.
the township. So then we're starting to, we're doing the same thing we're doing now, where we've got a mix of equipment where we know this is ours, we know that's theirs, and then we're just kind of hodgepodging it together. Whereas I think that it would be beneficial to the township in the long run to own all of the equipment outright to record and produce our board meetings. And it's going to save us money on the a significant amount on the it's going to pay for itself in the first year. So we'll recognize about a $30,000 savings over the course of the 3-year contract if we purchase the cameras ourselves.
Because the cameras are roughly $1,000 a piece.
Correct.
What does it mean for, it says 30 by 2 or by PTZ camera HD 1080p, and then in parentheses it says 4K would double this.
So the cameras that we're quoting right now are not the best cameras on the market in any way, shape, or form. Right now, we are quoting 30. The PTZ stands for pan tilt zoom. That's a PTZ camera, and it's in high definition at 1080p at 1080p. If you want to move up to the 4K stuff, which I'm sure everybody's heard, oh, 4K, well, we don't need to have, I'm trying to keep it reasonable here. I'm not looking for ridiculous. Everybody's trying to make it sound like we're trying to just, spend a ridiculous amount of money on this project. And we absolutely could if we went out and got 4K cameras and started going with 4K production equipment. But I don't think we need that. Yeah. We need a quality professional production that people can see our faces clearly. They don't need to see how many hairs are in my eyebrow.
Right. Okay. I didn't know if 4K was a dollar amount or not. So it's not.
Oh, no,
So,
that's a video standard. That's referencing the video standard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, my knowledge of video equipment is about nil. So that's what I just wanted to understand. Okay. So basically, it was 7 to 8 cameras. You're thinking we could actually do it with 4, which would be
Yeah.
$4,000 instead of $8,000.
Correct. So we can lower the we can lower the
About
cost
10
of that.
grand,
Yeah, we can drop it down to about 10K
11. Well, it'd be like,
ish.
yeah,
Yeah.
ish, be 10,9. So
Yep.
11,000. And that would be us purchasing, and then the 25 is a yearly amount. And it doesn't matter if we're in the library or we're in Shoreline Players, it's the same amount.
That's
the
that's my
question Jamie was
understanding. Is that
asking.
correct, Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, option one, $25,300 is the price. If we purchase the cameras to run those meetings, be it in the library or in the Ani Medical Clinic or on the street or in the theater, wherever we decide to go, that's how much they're going to charge us if we buy the cameras.
And so what, how soon could we put this in place at one place or the other to begin our in-person meetings?
At breakneck speed, we could probably be ready by last meeting in November, first meeting in December. But giving that, the meeting's right
Is there
before.
a difference? Is there a difference between the two venues, which could be done quicker?
That would be a question for Mr.
No.
Joseph. Okay.
We'll get it
Okay.
done either way, yeah.
I think after talking about it, the board has pushed us off to not go back to live meetings until the first of the year. It does. I mean, at this point, we're so close to it, we might as well just ride it out and plan on and have everything ready for a live meeting at the first meeting in January. Be it in the library or in the theater.
I'm sorry, did we
motion.
discuss the January timeline last meeting or something? I guess I don't remember that.
I mean, yeah, it's been kicked around between myself and a couple of the other board members. I think that you and I have discussed it, and I know that you'd like to go back as soon as possible.
Mhm.
I believe that Ms. McGuire wants to go back as soon as possible as well.
Mhm.
And that's why I mentioned the earliest at breakneck speed, they could be ready for possibly the second meeting in November, probably the first meeting in December, which would give us 2 extra meetings. Of course, there would be, there'd be 2 a la carte meetings at depending on whether we purchase the cameras or not on the
Right.
price on that a la carte meeting, but
Yes, I would like to go back as soon as possible, but I would like the project, if they need more time to get it done right, that's more important.
And by a la carte, you're referring to like budget work sessions or something along that line. Is that what you're referring to?
yes. So if we have a, we've got our regularly scheduled board meetings, and then we decide that we need to have a work session. It's going to be a big one. We're going to talk about all kinds of crazy stuff, and there's going to be some public input, and we need to have a venue for that. If we want that meeting recorded fully, then there would be the a la carte option of an additional full meeting, which would be $1,110 if we buy the cameras, and $1,785 if they buy the cameras.
Sure.
And then also down at the,
motion.
oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, it's fine. It's fine. I think you answered my question. But now my next question is, and you actually made a motion earlier.
I did.
I've since lost it. I didn't hear any second yet, but I think we're all trying to understand it.
Sure.
So what I'm hearing at this point is your motion was for the Shoreline Players, for the theater, correct?
No, my motion, there's still, I don't think we have any consensus on whether we're going to stay at the library or move to the theater. So I
simply the equipment.
Yes, this is just for the
That's what
equipment
they're
yep. Which is why Jamie was asking about the cost difference for the venues, which there isn't one.
Sure.
And then, yeah, so that's
So
why
is it from your Jeremy, is it from your subcommittee you don't have a consensus, or?
Yes, the board and the subcommittee. Yeah, it's up in the air. Not trying to, that's why I wanted to, we're just lock down the MIC TV contract, and then we can get into the nitty gritty on the venue. I think they should probably be separate motions anyway.
Sorry to interrupt you, Tim.
No, it's quite all right. Thank you very much. This is all, I think we've all got a lot of questions and we're just working toward the same end here. So I think my last question here is now, so if we were to go with this motion that you're describing, that you made her here, does it leave us the ability to go between the two venues, or is it then a permanent installation in wherever it was installed? Because the library doesn't work well for social distancing when there's a lot of people. So, that would be my only concern at this time, since things are still rather rocky.
I agree.
With regard to COVID. And so I'm just trying to figure out, well, where does this take us, and what would the cost be there? Are we allowed to flip here with McTV and go to the theater, or what does that look like? Maybe this is an Eric question.
Yeah. So I didn't, that never came up in any of the meetings, so I never even thought about that. If you were buying the cameras, there would be a fee for us to install them in one location. Obviously, if it moves, it's going to have to be there's labor and stuff involved with that. So a deinstall and a reinstall.
Which can be done, but to answer your question, we should pick one and stick to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not ideal.
Or we could, or we could pay for it twice and have it set up at two different locations. But
yeah, right. No,
yeah.
But if you do option 2, there would be no, because installation is included because you're just renting the equipment. So we would have to deal with that ourselves.
Setting yourself up for some misery, Mr. Joseph.
No, that's how the contract is there. So
well, all right.
Well, okay. So
I'm sorry. Do you have was there a motion? Yeah. Do you have a motion there, or want to get back to that?
Well, my motion was to accept the MIC TV contract with the change of, instead of, what is it, 7 cameras or 8 I'm
it
looking.
Says 7 to 8.
So so it's quoted at 8 for $8,000, and my motion lowered that to 4, which is still enough to do a professional production. It's not enough to zoom in on every individual board member, but I can live with that. I just, one overall view. It's just, come on, we can do better than that. And so I think that 4 would be an excellent compromise, because that gives 1 camera dedicated to the podium for any guest speakers, and then gives the other 3 dedicated to the board members so that they can bounce between those.
So in the old operation, there were 5 cameras, because one was a wide shot camera, but I don't think that we necessarily. Well, there were the 5th camera
was
was
also another camera
for the clock.
For the clock.
That's what it was.
Right, but one of the things that I was kind of hoping for here, and the reason that I was willing, one of the biggest reasons that I was willing to reduce the number of cameras, is that I'm hoping that the joystick that is going to control these things is going to have presets, so that if you position the cameras correctly, you can zoom in on the specific board members. And if you'd like the wide shot, you push the button and it zooms right out and gets the entire board. Would that be a possibility?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can still get away with 4 cameras and still have a nice solid.
At very minimum, because the issue
at very minimum
happens when you guys start talking back and forth, and we got cameras dedicated to individuals, and then there has to be a wide camera to go to the whole board if you guys just all start talking at the same time always. So
okay,
and then another one on backup for the person sitting. The superintendent, because they sit outside of the table. And then if there's anybody at the podium, that's another thing.
So could we basically we could set the cameras to some presets so that, it can bounce back and forth a little bit. That's one of the beautiful things about those PTZ cameras as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, the four would do it. Yes.
And of course, once we get this all approved, if over the course of time, it comes to light that we do need an additional camera, it wouldn't be that difficult to add an additional one, because we'll already have everything ready to take it.
Yep.
Thank you, Jeremy. Can you restate your motion, please?
Yes. I don't know if it's going to be exactly the same, but here we go. I would move that we accept the MIC TV proposal to record the meetings and run the Zoom for us, with the one change of 4 PTZ cameras installed instead of 8. That way the town, and that's option one, that the township purchases the cameras and pays for the installation.
I'll support that.
All right.
Thank you, Jeremy and Eric, for explaining the cameras. That was very helpful.
Oh, you betcha. Did you have any other questions before we,
Just on the, so that would change the amount, Jeremy, from what's in the packet from 14.9 to 10, basically 10, 9, 10, correct?
I would like to think that the 10.9 sounds like it would be a little high, because part of the installation of those cameras includes some mounting hardware, cabling, network switch accessories. So it's probably going to be a couple $100 under that 900. So it'd be like 10,600 ish. So not only is it going to lower the camera price, but there's going to be less installation. Not much less, but a couple $100 worth of cable and patch cables and stuff that would be probably knocked off there as well.
But we're going to need some specificity. So could we go with 10.9 for a number here?
Yes, I will set a cap at 10.9. How about that?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
You betcha. You still support that with the cap on there?
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Cummings to go with option number one, where the township purchases the equipment. We are reducing to 4 cameras, not to an exceed amount of $10,910. Does that kind of summarize your motion, I think?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
All
right. All right, so
10,910.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed
For installation.
for installation. I think I said that.
You did. I've just, I like to repeat things.
Okay.
Jeremy's been Jeremy.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Are you ready for the roll call then, Josh?
Yep.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wushtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay. So we're just dealing with that now.
Well,
correct?
now comes the, do we want to talk about, do we want to just, I mean, I know that, that you want to stay in the library. I don't. So I guess,
I know that.
to that end, I would move that we haven't even really discussed the theater's contract yet. Did you guys look over anyone have any questions about the contract that the theater provided? This is separate from the MIC TV quote. This is for a quote just for usage of the theater. Anybody have any questions about that? A total of $4,400 per year for the regularly scheduled board meetings, a total of $13,200 for a 3-year agreement to be paid in advance so that the theater can use that money to fix their heater and keep their building open to continue to provide the fantastic liberal arts venues and training and whatnot to our community.
Well, I have to say this, Jeremy. I'd like to disassociate that part of this. I mean, while I appreciate that there's certainly a business reason.
Fair enough. It's probably,
we need to focus on the purpose of this board and the focus of the township here.
Fair enough.
Like what's best for the township. So, I mean, nothing against the theater or the people or the show or any of that, but I think it just clouds the point, because ultimately we're not doing this as a charity. We're making this decision from the viewpoint of what is going to best benefit the citizens on the board and trying to communicate with the folks in the community.
Right. And it just happens to be icing on the cake for me, which is why I keep mentioning it. But you're absolutely correct. This is what's best for the board, not what's best for the theater. And although it does help the theater if we choose to take this path, that's not why we're doing this. We're doing this because we need extra room for social distancing and for more people. And, you know, I haven't, it was never brought up. I don't know if Miss Miller, the representative of the theater's board is on or not.
She was
But
over.
but to Miss Richards' point, I'm not entirely positive that we would have to be on the stage. In fact, if we put the tables lower at the forefront of the you know, the orchestra pit for all intents and purposes, and gave ourselves a couple of rows of seating in front of that, we would be at the same level as everyone else, and it might even be better so that we don't interrupt their sets. Would the chair recognize Miss Miller so that she can discuss
Yes.
that with us?
Go ahead, Sue.
I am here.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to answer any questions you have in regards to use of the theater.
Would we fit in the orchestra pit, Miss Miller?
Absolutely, but I also defer to Mr. Joseph in terms of how cameras would be set up for best visibility. Does that work for MIC TV?
The orchestra pit works for visibility, but we did not test the audio in that location because it is in front of the speakers. So we'd have
Okay.
to deal with that. And then I did want to mention one other thing, that if you are going into the library, there are no speakers in the library. So there's another section 7 for that if you choose the library on the MIC TV quote. I just wanted to make sure you knew that as well.
As Eric stated, we did host the RAB meeting and their other public meeting, and we did successfully run the meetings in the hybrid style, but they did opt to sit up on the stage. There were as many as 20 people up there at the time. And I understand what you're saying, Ms. Richards, about the distance between you and the folks that are there, but in terms of the folks that attended the RAB meeting and their public meetings and everybody, that didn't seem to be of concern. And they had microphones set up for public comment, and some of the folks that were there did their comments. Some of the presenters actually did comment from the orchestra pit area as well. But we have not tested a full hybrid meeting from that location if you were down in the orchestra pit area.
Do you foresee any problems putting it down there other than the audio?
Potentially with audio. Other than that, I don't, and I don't know. That would be more of an Eric question, how difficult that could be to overcome. We have held meetings, regular standard couple microphones type meetings where folks are sitting down in that area without difficulty, but you're talking about something completely different. So I defer to the technical person on that. Thoughts, Eric?
Yeah, that is true that you have that we have had other meetings in that area, and most of the feedback issues come from the speakers picking up the microphones that are down there. And as she stated, we had successful meetings that weren't a part of a hybrid meeting, but it's just inside the theater having no feedback. So I would say that there are more microphones than we usually have down there with the 7-member board plus the extra one on the side. Sorry, superintendent. Yeah. That we would probably want to test it first for sure. And then we could probably dial it in. I'm sure we could.
Well, that would be part of the installation, engineering, and configuration, either Shoreline Theater or Robert J. Parks Library, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Is Mr. Friel on tonight?
He is, and I believe he would need to review any of these contracts before we executed anything, so. And I don't
I
think
had a
he has.
question about fronting the rent money before we actually rented the place, if that's actually legal.
I'm on, and I'm just kind of getting all this stuff for the first time. But yeah, I think I'd need to look at everything in the context of how it's proposed, to be signed up. But yeah, there's nothing per se illegal about that, but there are definitely better ways than others of doing things to achieve the same purpose.
And in regard to Ann's point about clearing the sidewalk, other than doing it while they're there to clear the sidewalk to the library, I didn't think that would be real difficult. I I don't think it would require them coming out at any different time than they would normally clear the sidewalk there for the library, because we're just talking about the one walk that comes up from our shared parking lot to the front doors.
True.
Right. Oh, I know it is quite a, I mean, in my thought process, I've been to a couple functions. I would say it's a little bit farther setback for the parking lot. And then you got to push the snow and all the other stuff. I'm just, again, before we sign DPW up to anything, I just want to make sure that they're able to handle it. I don't know where the trees are there to push the snow from. You know, are they going to use a plow truck? What are they going to do? So just all things that add on to other responsibilities. So just want to
Well, of course, I just meant in terms of when it was being done, I would imagine if that were part of it, it could be done at the same time that they're maintaining the walks at the library was all I was referencing.
Right. No, I hear you.
I was just curious, at the library, we have the old, gosh, I don't know what you call it, that the big desk that all the board members sit behind that was in the previous location.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a permanent, kind of a permanent structure, although I mean, it can be moved. I'm just wondering what type of a situation they would use at the theater, because obviously, if it is on the stage, that has to be taken down and moved, and where would that go?
Well, I guess I'm of the impression that those desks are old and we don't really have to use them. I mean, we could just use folding tables and some nice table skirts with the township logos on them if we wanted.
Okay.
And to that end, if we do go with the theater, I'm not sure if they'd be able to have any place to store them at all. So that's an excellent question, Mr. Palmer. And I don't think that we have. I know it came up during the committee meeting, but I don't know that we actually found a solution to it other than using folding tables and nice table skirts. Do you have
That
a
is
preference either way?
what we discussed.
Yeah. That was your idea, it wasn't mine. That was a great idea because I didn't. I same thing, Mr. Palmer did. Like, what are we going to do with these massive tables that they're on casters, aren't they?
I don't think so. I don't remember them being on casters.
No, I think they just sit there, and not that
They're
we
just
have
heavy.
to, continue to use that. It's just
Mhm.
that's what we've always had, and they just stay there in the library in the one position, ready to use at each meeting. I don't know that we need to, stay with that. A table with some decent chairs and the skirting would be fine for the board and the superintendent.
Well, what happens with the planning commission meetings and all those meetings? I'm sorry, is that different? Do those still happen at the library, or where do those happen?
I don't know why we couldn't continue to have those at the library. We don't typically have huge crowds for the planning commission meetings. If we have a case, it's usually only the people that are involved in the case and maybe their builder or whatever. And we don't, we've never had those meetings broadcast by McTV. So I don't know why we couldn't continue to have those at the library. We're talking about hybrid meetings, so one meeting for the township board area and another meeting for the planning commission and zoning board of appeals.
Right.
Is there any, I don't know if any board member or Tammy might know, is there any other scenario where we have township owned equipment in a building that we don't own?
Didn't you guys do that when you were meeting across the street at the old place next to Gilbert's?
No, we own the building.
State Street building, we own the building.
Yeah.
And and maybe this is to Tim, I don't know if he knows the answer to that and the legalities of that, or insurance wise, or if that's an issue or not.
Or
What
an
matter?
insurance carrier.
Right.
On what particular?
For the equipment.
For the equipment, our township owned equipment being installed in a building that we don't own.
I mean, that's usually just a matter of underwriting. And so you get with Tammy, gets with our agent on that stuff, you know, and puts it by him or her and make sure that it's adequately addressed.
I would think it would be no different than having a lease with any other type of facility.
That's totally true. It's about insurable interests. Yep.
Well, I'd like to give the bigger venue a go. And to that end, I move that we accept the contract for the Shoreline Community Theater to use the theater for 3 years with an upfront payment of $13,200 that will cover all of our regularly scheduled board meetings for the years 2022, 2023, and 2024. And then we'll reevaluate at the end of that time.
I'll second that.
Would you consider adding the attorney reviewing the documents?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't have any problem with Mr. Friel reviewing the documents. And these are quotations, though. I mean, we'll probably have to formalize a contract.
Right, but there's
after we
still
approve
language in there.
Fair enough.
What is your motion, Mr. Spencer?
I will amend my motion to include approval by Mr. Friel, the township council. You still support that, Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Westerbarth. I am not even going to try to restate that. So hopefully you got that, Josh. All I got was the amending for the attorney to review. Are we ready for a roll call?
Mr. Westerbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
No,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
No, motion carried. Okay, great. I think we covered that topic and then some, right?
Absolutely.
All right, moving on then to Oscoda Phase 4 Water Project Pay Request number 3.
Okay, your packet contains a third pay request for the Phase 4 water main project in the amount of $196,222.95. That leaves $367,183.85 remaining on the project. I would ask that the board consider approving the third pay request from Caterman Construction in the amount of $196,222.95 to be paid from Fund 591-000-974.000.
Okay, is there any questions or a motion?
What was that dollar amount? $194,222.92?
$196. $196,222.95.
95 cents. I move that we approve the Cotterman invoice in the amount of $196,222.95 to be paid out of account 591-000-974.000.
I would support that.
There's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Palmer, I believe.
Yes.
Your voice is a little different tonight, so sorry.
Yeah, I have a cold.
All right.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Don't get too close to your screens there.
All right. So motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
yes.
Mr. Westerbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Moving on the agenda to resolutions, we have Corridor Business District.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, this is Nicole.
Hey, Nicole. Didn't even see you on
Hey.
there.
Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna leave my picture up that's there of the beach.
Okay.
Okay, so this is for the Corridor Business District, and it is form-based code conversion, and it replaces the previous B2 district. The district is from Evergreen Street going up US 23 to approximately Family Fair, goes up the F41 split, up F41 and northwest of the tracks. This was started last year, and at the September 7th meeting at the Planning Commission, the last of the changes were made and approved through unanimous vote. So I was just hoping to get your approval tonight.
Okay, so it's not actually a resolution, correct? It's a,
Correct. Yep,
Okay.
it's
all right,
new zoning ordinance.
okay. All right, is there any questions for Nicole or a motion?
Thanks for including the map. I like that.
Ah, you're welcome.
Heck yeah.
Thorough packet, thank you.
Mhm.
I would make a motion that we approve the corridor business district as presented.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Mr. Palmer to approve the information as submitted. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried. All right, moving on to other. Thanks, Nicole, for hanging out the whole time.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Do you need me for anything else? ZBA appointment or anything?
You might want to hang out just, well, I don't know. I don't think so. I have all the information, so it should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, so moving on to other, we have the Northern Lights Parade Chamber request. Tammy?
Okay, your packet has a letter from the Chamber of Commerce for the Northern Lights Parade on December 4th of 2021. This request entails use of Furtaw Field for setup, coordination with police and fire, and help obtaining permits for road closure.
I noticed in the document that's here, it says that it's got those type 3 barricades. Are those barricades that we put up? Are they technically type 3?
I don't know, but I do know that as far as barricades go, DPW usually drops those. at
Yeah,
the
I've seen them
road.
because they block
Yeah.
off the entrance. Well, they used to block off the entrance to Hull Island with one. And it's just got once, and then it just kind of sets in a triangle on the road. And then this diagram says that there's a minimum of 48 inches. Is that actually some kind of standard that we're required to adhere to?
I am not aware of that. I could check into it though.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we do not have the type 3 barricades. We have to borrow them from the road commission. So I can tell you that. That's what we've had to done in the past. So
Are we required to use them? Do you know, or do we just do that just as a courtesy, or
well, the type 3 barricade we had to use, I know for the I just went blank, the Rock Fest, for when you're actually closing, like a street, the traffic, the road. And we're just putting those barricades on the side streets the road itself is closed up at the north end with a type 3 barricade, and then detoured around. I don't know about the side streets, I guess. I wouldn't want to, we've never in the past, I can tell you that. They've never used a type 3 barricade for the parades on the side street road closures. Those have all been, the township drops them off. They're like a basic one bar going across.
I don't have a problem with what we're using at all. I just don't
Yeah.
want, if we're supposed to be using something else,
Yeah.
then we need to plan for that in the future.
Right.
I just don't want to get us in trouble with anybody because it'll all be dandelions and roses until all of a sudden somebody gets a hair up their craw and then, oh, you guys are in violation. And oh, geez, if we can avoid that, that would be preferable.
Yeah, I don't know where that map is. I don't know where she has that type 3. Who said that had to be used? So
It was right below. It's in the diagram right below that. It
that's
just
what I
says-
know.
yeah.
I
Oh,
see
okay,
that, but
okay.
I don't know if that's just something that the new chamber director pulled and had that on there, or if it's something from the road commission, that kind of stuff. So we'll have to get further clarification, but I can tell you that what we drop off is not a type 3 barricade. So.
Well, I would move.
I know,
oh, sorry.
just as a note, just when we closed the road for Rockfest, part of the permit from the road commission was we had to have the type 3 barricades where
Right.
we were closing the roads, but they gave us the barricades to use. So
And you were closing the entire road, not just the
we
end of
closed
it, right?
no, it wasn't a site. Yeah, we closed the entire road off.
So are they looking for us to approve this road closure? Is that, it says application has not been reviewed or approved from the county road commission.
No, the township as only the township can apply to.
Oh, that's right.
actually
Yep.
use
Okay.
as-
Yep.
Through MDOT to use the road, 23.
Well,
So-
I see their insurance. It's for the Chamber of Commerce and we all love parades. So I move that we approve the Chamber of Commerce's request to close the road for the Northern Lights Parade, according to the diagram they provided and the times that are on the sheet.
All right, there was a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by, I don't know.
It was a toss up between Jamie and Josh.
McGuire.
Give it to Josh.
All
Do
right.
it again.
Mr.
1, 2, 3,
Sutton.
go.
Okay, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the lab equipment purchase request. I make a motion to postpone this topic until the next meeting.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Sutton to postpone. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire.
Yes.
Oh, it throws me off. Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried.
Every time you two are on the bottom of the list, I'm like, miss. I got 2 misses in a row now.
Yeah. All right, moving on to number 3, F&V operations finance discussion.
Thanks, Andrew, for recognizing this. Again, this is part of a discussion we've been having in the utility subcommittee, and it came to our attention that the current F&V contract has a number of minimum individuals that need to be employed. It appears that they're not supplying the amount of employees as in the contract. So there's a couple clauses in the contract for the responsibility of F&V to supply relevant to the contract the necessary personnel to deliver services as generally mentioned or described within this contract. And another clause, from time to time, but no more than annually, the township may conduct a performance review of services provided by F&V, for which review shall be directed toward the quality of operation and maintenance services of the township and its customers. 2 things I think we would like in the subcommittee to discuss with them, F&V, their performance to the township in regards to, 1, the financial aspects of the contract. I think we're overpaying them and have been overpaying them since November, as they, and from what I understand, have not employed the necessary number of people since we took over as a board. And number 2, we've got a number of complaints from both citizens and contractors, and we'd like to conduct that performance review with said individuals, all parties from F&V, our subcommittee and bringing in the contractors and citizens who have some complaints that we'd like to discuss with their management. So with that, I just wanted to make the board aware that we're looking into that and going to develop the factual data and see where we stand. And then we'll report back as soon as we can set these meetings up through Ms. Klein. Any questions or comments?
Does it say in the contract that we just go ahead and do that, or does it outline? Do you need board approval?
Don't think we need board approval except to officially act on the contract. What we intend to do about that if we go back after them for costs. Right now, I want to keep this as kind of more fact-finding within the subcommittee and then report back to the board, and then the board can decide what we want to do based on the information gathered.
Any other questions? So at this time you were just reporting, correct, Steve?
Yes, just reporting to make the board aware about a potential issue or issues.
So your whole committee will be helping, will be doing the research?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Steve before moving on? Okay, next on under other is zoning board of appeals appointment. We did have a resignation that I believe that the board accepted at the last meeting. Am I correct for Catherine?
Yeah.
Okay, and I have submitted an application, emailed that out to the board that was filled out by Jeff Rush in regard to filling that open seat for the zoning board of appeals. That open seat has a term that expires on 12/31/2022, according to Nicole.
Is the, you talking about the Jeff Rush?
Yes, the application that's in the packet.
Yeah.
Yep, he is a teacher at the high school, has coached swimming for years, both the honors program and high school level, and actually was a government teacher for a while. I think he's not doing government right now because they've switched people around a lot out there, but anyways. Any questions or?
Did you get a chance to talk to him and interview him a little bit?
Yes, I did.
Cool. What's he want to do? What's his says he wants to be, get involved. Why?
Just wants to get more involved in the community. He sells real estate now. I guess I should indicate he's a real estate agent in the same office that I have my license, but he does it part-time because he's a school teacher. And
right, he's pretty involved. Coaching, teaching,
yes,
selling.
he is.
That's pretty involved already.
He is very involved. Yep. And he just wants to get further involved. So. And in a capacity that he can support by the time that he has. And the zoning board of appeals, although a commitment, isn't quite as involved as some of the other boards that have seats that occasionally open up. So he felt that this was a commitment that he could do.
This is the seat that we just accepted. Oh, yep.
Yeah, Catherine. So this term expires on this is 12/31/2022 is the seat.
Did you have any other applicants for the position, or just Mr.
Nope.
Rush?
Just Mr. Rush so far.
And are you looking to get that done today? You want to put him in there now?
I would like to. I believe that Catherine was good through the end of the month. So.
Well,
Mr. Rush was one of my son's teachers here early on, and I mean, I would certainly vouch for him. And
yeah, I was just going to say, let's knock it
have
out
his
then.
help.
Well, I'd move to accept Mr. Rush's application and have him join the zoning board of appeals at as soon as don't mispronounce it again. Larrabee, as soon as Miss Larrabee's term is complete.
Well, it's not her term is completed, her resignation, which I believe was the end of the month. Yeah.
I
Yep.
changed my motion to,
Mhm.
Okay,
till the, yeah, okay.
Still support.
Thank you, sir.
and, all right, so Mr. Cummings, you're gonna support, all right, so there's a motion by Mr.
Yep.
Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried. Right, now, moving on, I believe, yep, to, we are now into the second public comment of the agenda. At this time, you can make your public comment does not have to be on something that is on the agenda. You do have 4 minutes to speak. Having said that, would anybody like to make a public comment this evening? Please use the raise hand feature if you have that. Anybody? Public comment? You have one raised hand. Deborah? You should be able to speak. Where'd she
All
go?
right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Deborah.
All right. I have a couple things I want to address
Okay.
that's happened over the last couple weeks since the last board meeting. I spoke at the last board meeting, and when I went to read the agenda for this board meetings, I looked at the minutes and I noticed that somehow in the minutes it had been put down as Deborah Shugart complaining about the hotel. So I emailed the superintendent and the board to express my concern with the way that my comments had been characterized. And I did hear back from Mr. Sutton, and he did offer an apology for recording my name as Deborah Shugart instead of Rauch. But he then went on to blame me because I had saying that I had used the name Shugart, which I don't believe I did. And when I was addressed by three of the other board members, they had used my name as Mrs. Rauch or Miss Rauch, I'm sorry. So I can't even believe that that a board member would put something like that in the minutes. It still just baffles me how he would think that that's okay to do. All right, then after I spoke last time, Mr. Wistbarth and Mr. Spencer made some comments on what I had said. I found them to be very condescending and like they were lecturing me and telling me who I'm allowed to discuss issues with that I have with about the Lake Street property. It just seemed like they were acting as though, I don't know, like I said, it was very condescending. And they told me that, or they said to me that I should take it up with the board. And then the next comment, they're telling me that I need to use the Freedom of Information Act to get my information. So which is it? Do I try to talk to the board and ask them questions, or do I have to go through the Freedom of Information Act? Like it was, I don't know. Like I said, I'm totally disgusted with some of the stuff that I'm hearing from this board and from some of the members. My next one is Mr. Taser. After I find out about this minutes where they said that I was complaining, someone messages me and says that Mr. Taser has taken a screenshot of that, highlighted it, and posted it on Facebook. And he's allowing people to comment on it. he has, there's people on there, Devin Taser and Tess Weed are making the laugh emotions on it. Is this how committee members treat taxpayers of Oscoda Township? Seriously? Is there some rule against them doing this kind of stuff? Okay, and then I also was told about Mr. Taser posting on Facebook about him giving up his groups, and that he was upset because people were threatening to stalk him and his family. Well, I'd like to make a comment about that because his wife on Facebook told me,
Okay,
said,
I'm sorry, but you are, your 4 minutes is up.
okay, well, guess I'll address it next time because there's a lot of things going on with this board, the board members and the committee members that, to me, in my opinion, is just unethical.
Okay, thank you,
And
Deborah.
I don't understand how
Deborah.
you guys are allowing this to go on.
Thank you, Deborah. Okay, I see another raised hand. Rick? Rick?
Yep, am I unmuted?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, yep, you have the ability to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay. I was curious as to the Warrior Pavilion meetings, the 3 total, that was to gather public opinion regarding FERTOP, which I attended all 3 of them. I was waiting to see when the board is going to be made aware of the public opinion, however Todd received it to give to you guys. My other comment was, as far as board members of 2 different boards being moderators of a Facebook page, being the Planning Commission and the EIC as being the 2 moderators for it, with board members of every board having certain members as part of it. And then all of a sudden it goes to, and I'm talking about Prosper Oscoda, and then it goes to private last week. Okay, so you got members that are moderators of Facebook pages that I thought you guys wanted to get rid of the Facebook, divorce yourself from that. But you got members running the pages. The last thing, what was it with? Oh, Todd Dickerson's comment, which was on Facebook, which I'm going to read to you, and you tell me how you take this. It's a message from him to Bob Taser. It says, "I have to be honest, Bob. I was at the famous local water hole earlier tonight. My trusty hammerhead on my side. No one coward, Facebook warrior, and the whole bunch showed up though." And he says he played pool with some guys and they acted like 7th graders. Talking about being at the bar with the gun on your side, waiting for people on Facebook to show up, blows my mind that could even be said and not had a comment made about it. And the last thing is about allowing me to speak for 4 seconds. Sometimes people ask questions and they get no response. Other times people ask questions and certain people will give answers. If we can't get answers for legitimate questions from the board going like this, what's the alternative? Who do we go to get an answer? Do we have to come down to the township face to face to ask a question that you guys are in charge of answering? So I just wanted to make you guys aware of this. I know some of you are, but to use that, I'm in the bar with a hammerhead on my side, and you guys all know what that means. That's coming from your EIC director. If you guys are okay with that, and I hope none of you are, I'd like to see something done about it. And I'd like to get answers to questions when people call in, because with the exception of the Warrior Pavilion, nobody could ever get a question answered unless certain board members choose to answer said question. Everything I'm saying now and the questions I'm bringing up now probably won't get answered. Maybe the next person's will, I don't know. But this is going too far now. And especially with the Facebook thing, if you guys want to get rid of it and stop it, it's members of all different boards that are moderators. Prosper Oscoda in particular picks who's in it, decides who's not in it, puts out information telling how the public to receive the information, but then blocks people from doing it and makes comments regards to multiple different people, which when they block us, we can't read it now that it's private with board members still on there. I just don't understand how you logically can allow this to happen. That's my last comment. I hope I get some questions answered. I hope everybody does. You guys have a good night.
Thank you, Rick. Sorry, my timer is really late sounding, but it did just go off after he finished talking. But okay, is there anybody else with public comment? Sorry, now I can't figure out how to turn it off. Got it. Anybody else? Public comment? Just heard a
Hi, Ann, are you able to hear me?
yes.
I was going to get to something, but I want to pick up, unfortunately, right where Rick left off.
Can you state
I
your
was gonna
name,
say
please?
I'm sorry, it's Dirk Hunt,
Okay.
6910 Knollwood Court. Because I'm putting together documentation, exactly what Rick was just addressing with the public comments by employees of this township, board members, committee members, attacking citizens personally. I'm going to focus on Mr. Dickerson, who publicly multiple times called me a racist, attacks my moral character as something like that. As an employee attacking a citizen he is supposed to represent is unbelievable. He's also attacked other citizens through emails on Oscoda Township email. I've worked for many large companies. Any of this behavior would be grounds for termination immediately. I mean, without a doubt. If I was his boss and saw some of the emails he sent out to people, he'd be in the office and he'd be on his way out the door immediately. I had not even heard of the other issues Rick raised. But I'm putting together documentation and I will send that in to you folks or drop it off. What I did want to get to is I think this evening we just witnessed a theft or a loss of tens of thousands of dollars for our community. And so I have some questions for the entire board. Is Mr. Spencer representing MIC TV? He sounded like he was doing the presentation and not Mr. Joseph. We barely heard from Mr. Joseph. Mr. Spencer is listed as a trustee of MIC TV. On their website, they declare they're a 501c3 nonprofit, and donations are tax deductible. Searches of Michigan and IRS databases on MIC TV, mictv.org, Michigan Community Television show no charities under those names. And maybe it's registered under another LLC, and if so, I would like that documentation presented to the board. So my question is, regardless of if MIC TV is or isn't a charity, is Mr. Spencer receiving a salary, gratuity, or the exchange of any money for that position as a trustee on MIC TV's board? What are your protocols? Ms. Woosterboth, where there was no money involved, resigned herself because of board rules. And there was no money involved in that, and we're dealing with tens of thousands of dollars. And again, why is something like this not being put up for a public bidding period with, on this date, we'll accept bids for this project we need? The same thing was done with Old Orchard and is costing us tens of thousands in revenue through the wireless system. And $1,000 per meeting, I'm literally having a stroke. I've done this stuff for 30 years, live sound reinforcement, produced records, staged live concerts, worked at internet multimedia since 1995, live streamed the first college football game ever. The costs being mentioned here are mind-blowing. It's outrageous. 4 months ago, I recommended you recruit one of the best students at the school, some of the IT kids, to run the Zoom meeting so Ms. Richards would have time to focus on the meeting and not be distracted by Zoom. Mr. Spencer interrupted and said, oh, we're working on that. Well, what are we? 3 or 4 months later, we're still working on that. Our high school students could run these meetings under a credited internship. I'm sure there's at least a half dozen or 12 that would be great at it. They're already streaming on Twitch and everything. And once a system like this is set up, the recording and live streaming can be up and running in 30 minutes. It's automatically streamed live to multiple platforms, Facebook, YouTube, whatever channels you want. It's just unbelievable. And then fiber optic internet, we don't need fiber. I get 5G with 50 megabits of internet speed at multiple locations, the library, Warrior Pavilion. I mean, church teams have set this up, and it looks like my time is up, but those are some serious questions that we need to address. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dirk. Okay, is there anybody else with comments or questions? Last call for public comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Brian?
Brian Haley.
Okay.
You got me?
Yes.
There's an
you have your
echo.
name.
Yeah, keep it short and sweet. I would like, I don't want to get off topic. Boy, that's some serious stuff. Obviously, some folks have to tighten up their language on a lot of things. If you're going to be on Facebook, this has been my criteria all along, is that you ought to take on the role of a journalist and realize, you know, you got to watch anything slanderous or something you can get sued for. But, you know, my priorities are even higher than that. I have noticed in the community that certain officials that we have here now, they don't appreciate direct language. And I brought this up before that we would have direct language, and actually Mr. Tasha, I remember he said he was going to take that as a threat. I think some of you might recall that, and that's laughable. A guy like me never has had to make any threats in my life. There's no need. What I would like to get into, though, and Palmer had touched on it before, and I don't want to get off track because these guys before me, they said things pretty well, and those things better be looked into. But the host contract, short-term rentals, I'd like to know the status of that. I had referenced all that, and I saw flags right from the beginning. That came through the RRC to the planning committee. So we got a lot of things going on here with strings being pulled, it appears to me. Anyway, I guess the other thing has got to be, and again, Mr. Palmer's mentioned it, a comment section, but this is very serious here, Bill. The water loss. The water loss. Looks to me, rough math is showing what, 30 to 40 grand a month? I hope you guys can answer that tonight. I think my figures are pretty well correct. What is that, 0.05 cents? But roughly speaking, I would expect in an older system, we understand things. Michigan has the highest rate of frost levels, fluctuation in the world, because we're on a peninsula inside these Great Lakes. So that's part of it. We understand, but a goal has got to be in the 10 to 12% range of loss, not where we're at now. I'm looking at numbers there that at what, 38, 42, 44. My good, this is an emergency. So, Ann, can you address that tonight? And then I'll get, or any of the other people that are on board, whether it's F&V or Mr. Field, can we address some of that? Do we have a system in place to detect this water loss problem? This is beyond belief. Okay, thanks a lot.
Brian. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to board comments on the agenda. Is there any board members with comment this evening?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay.
Eric had a very valid question about my association with MIC TV. And yes, I am a board member. Yes, it is a nonprofit. No, I've never received a penny from MIC TV. I've only donated time and materials and resources to MIC TV for some of their 501c3 things that they do. As far as the Facebook stuff is concerned, as you all can see, this is why the township is staying out of it. We are not the Facebook police. We do not dictate what people do in their off time with their own groups anymore for any of the township employees or for Mr. Hunt and his group. We don't dictate what you have to say about what's in your group or who the people that are in there are, nor should we do that for any of the township employees, because they are doing this of their own free will and accord. All the board members are doing this of their own free will and accord with their personal accounts, which I might add, the townspeople that are being thrown out of these groups are physically threatening these employees of the township. So let's not gloss over the fact that there's a little bit of miserable going on both ways here. And so, you know, Beam, Splinter, I'm sure you understand. I'd like to see that stop, but the township doesn't have anything to do with Facebook. We don't control Facebook. We are not Mark Zuckerberg. We do not tell these people what they can and can't type any more than we tell you what you can and can't type on Facebook, period.
We have a social media policy, actually.
We do. And it's and from what I've read, they are allowed to speak about pretty much whatever they want, as long as they're not saying that they speak for the township, and because they don't. They're not allowed to threaten anybody, which I haven't heard of any of our township employees threatening people, yet they are receiving threats. So, I mean, do we need to change the policy to disallow township employees from using Facebook to curb this? I don't think so. I think that everyone involved here are all adults and they should act as such. And that's all I've got to say today. Oh, one more thing. I'd like Mr. Haley's water loss question added to our next meeting's agenda for review, because he's right. We need to look at that. And that's it.
Thanks, Jeremy.
You betcha.
Anybody else? Board members? Comment?
I guess I'd just like to clarify from last meeting, my comments were directed at the attacks on township employees through Facebook or other means. And I believe that's unethical. If there's an issue with a township employee, it needs to be addressed with the board, and there are proper procedures to do that. You can come in and meet with us individually, or you can do that at public comment, or you can request specific information through FOIA. Those are my comments.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, and this is Bill, just one quick comment. I would like to see if we can't get back to our in-person meetings for our first meeting in December, actually our last meeting for the year, so that if there's any bugs that need to get worked out before the first of the year, we can do that, because my understanding right now is we have to go back to in-person meetings after the first of the year. So I want to make sure that we have, everything worked out before that. So I would hope that we could get everything in place and have our first in-person meeting for that one and only meeting in December. And also, Jeremy mentioned it, to have it on the next board meeting, but I have brought that up several times about the water loss. We're talking about millions of gallons of water that are being lost. I know we have had someone, a company, and do some testing to try and find losses, and Ms. Klein has worked on that. And as far as I know, so far to date, they have not been able to locate there has to be some major losses somewhere, and so far they haven't been able to find them, as far as I know at this point. So that was all. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Is there any way to check for like illegal connections or how that works for?
Was just thinking the same thing, Jamie.
Yeah. Right. I mean, are they running across any of that stuff when they're doing the meter change outs? And they're finding anything that's, adding up to any water loss?
Actually, they are. They are.
Oh, good.
There was actually a quite sizable one, I believe, about a month or two ago. And as they're doing the auto read change out, that's how they're finding them, like that. So I don't know if it's that much, but
yeah. I recall maybe about a year ago when I was in Township Hall, I remember hearing about how there was a a hose from one house running to another house.
Oh my gosh.
Now that would have been more of, you know, tapping in somebody else's water line, but and then I think I remember somebody in the water department describing how a water meter had been bypassed. It was under the house and not easily seen. And so it's an opportunity for us to find these situations, by going out and replacing these meters. I mean, as much as it's great to upgrade the technology and get accurate meters and, you know, make it easier for us to administer the system, it also is an opportunity to catch what people are doing.
I've heard of people taking the meters off to fill pools and whatnot. I've heard of things like that. So it happens.
Okay. Josh, did you have anything?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. Definitely we will look into the water loss and come back to on the next meeting with some information there, Brian. Obviously, I think there's 4 board members that said that, so we will follow up with that. I guess I just, I had a couple comments. I know the township took action that we were going to dissolve our Facebook page, and we did that, or we don't use that anymore. That being said, we do have people that are operating other Facebook pages. And while I don't think that we should be the police and everybody has the right to their opinion, sadly, our world is a social media nasty platform, in my humble opinion. I think that social media can be used in a lot of good ways. I think we have great examples in our town. And I'll show this out there, the Kava, Sunrise Kava Cafe. They do a great job on social media every day, posting something with drink specials and positive things. And there's other places in town that do the same thing. And I look at some of these community platforms, but I am not a member. And I can honestly say I'm not a member because I would have a hard time keeping my mouth shut, quote unquote, at some of the things that are said. So in theory, I can only like or make comments that way. But it's nasty on both sides. I mean, it's nasty. And to me, it goes back to what we teach our children in regard to bullying and everything else. You teach your kids not to bully. I feel like social media has just given us a platform where we can just say and do whatever the heck we feel. And then those same people that say and do whatever the heck they feel, when that person retaliates on them, they're like, whoa, no, that's not good. I mean, so it's both sides. I've seen it for a couple of years now. I mean, I've seen negative stuff posted about myself, and I don't get on there and comment. There's so many things that are said that are inaccurate. I mean, 90%, in my opinion, of the things that are said are inaccurate, but I'm not going to get on that platform because there's just no winning. There's no winning when people can just go in and out and say and do, and some people can't see it because they're not friends or they're not members or whatever. So I guess, I don't know, I don't really have a point besides saying that we all need to be more responsible and respectful. And our world is just crazy right now. Maybe we should all try being a little bit nicer and a little bit more respectful, and try to look at some positive ways to deal with some of the things in our community instead of negative. And we're never going to all agree on everything. I mean, we're not the Stepford people, so we're not going to agree on everything. But be polite and not so derogatory. And I have seen threatening things where people are going to do vandalism when somebody's building something. I mean, that's just crazy talk, in my opinion. So again, the same people that are casting stones at other people are throwing rocks to begin with. I mean, it goes both sides, and we just need to do a better job. And if we, Oscoda Township, don't have a social media policy that's strong enough, we need to maybe look at that again, my opinion, because although we shouldn't be no employee should be taking pot shots at, we shouldn't be instigators as well. And I'm not saying that we're doing that. I'm just saying that we need to look at the big picture again, in my opinion. Anyways, with that, that's about, I guess, all I have on social media.
Well said.
Very nice, Dan.
Yeah,
I
well,
agree.
I mean, it's just, my gosh, you guys, this world is crazy right now, you know? I mean, just literally crazy. And we are a small community with some amazing, amazing good people, amazing good people. We need to stop beating each other up and being inappropriate. And we need to start working together in a way. I mean, we're not going to always agree, but come on, let's be respectful, or at least attempt to be. But anyways, with that, I would take a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
See you.